Hi, everybody. This is the notes that goes with the class that I did the 21st and the 22nd. So that's Thursday, Friday. So remember, if you watch the notes, fill out the notes on using Cami and Google Classroom, you can get some extra credit. Take the extra credit while you got it. So this goes a lot with what I did last week or earlier in the week. I've got these right triangles. So I've got a big right triangle here, a medium right triangle, and a smaller right triangle. Now, this time I'm looking at comparing the big guy, this one here, to a smaller one, which is this one. And when I do that, the big right triangle here sees the hypotenuse over the hypotenuse of the blue guy, which is B, equals, if I go back to the big one, B is a leg of the big one, over X. That's my setup. So the entire bottom over the leg over this little piece. So B is what's getting used twice. The other one's going to use this guy. So let me change to a different color. Let me change to green. So now if I go to this guy, the green one, again, I'm going to go the entire bottom over A, because it's the hypotenuse of the big one, the hypotenuse of the green one. I'm going to reuse the A, because now it's the leg of the big one over the leg of the little one. So there's the two formulas I'm going to be using for this particular worksheet, at least the first 6. So the first 6 use these two formulas. The last 6 are all mixed up with the last one. So these are my two formulas. They all kind of make these L shapes. So bottom over A, so that kind of makes an L, kind of a backwards L. And then A over Y makes another backwards L. So let's take a look at some examples. And my suggestion as you're doing your homework, find a problem that looks similar to these, kind of watch this setup and do your homework, because these can be a little bit tricky. So on this guy, I've got my X here in the corner. So it's the entire bottom. Now in this case, I'm going to have to add these two together to get the entire bottom. So I get a 20. So it's bottom over X, because X is getting used for the big triangle and the left-hand triangle. Reuse the X over 6. There's my setup. Now at this point, it's what we did yesterday. Cross multiply, X squared equals 120. Take the square root of 120. X equals 10.95. Again, round to the nearest hundreds because most of these don't come out even. So 10.95 here. This one, nearly the same thing. Find the entire bottom. It's 10. So I'm going to take the bottom over the X. So 10 over X, and then X over 1. That's my setup, because it's the hypotenuse of the big one, the hypotenuse of the left one, the leg of the big one, the leg of the little one. So X squared equals 10. Take the square root of 10. So square root the 10, 3.16. So I get a 3.16 here. So the first two were nearly identical. Different numbers down here, but the setup did not change. So that's the first two. Next two. This one, yeah, I turned it a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same thing. I've got the entire bottom here. So to find the entire bottom, I'm going to add the 2 and the 6, I get 8. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use an 8. So 8 over x, reuse the x over, make sure you stay on this side because I'm working off of this triangle, 6. X squared equals 48. When you do your cross multiplication, take the square root of 48, 6.93. So x equals 6.93. That's my answer for this one here. This one's probably one of the trickier ones because I have an x here. The entire bottom here, I've got to add the two numbers together, but I can't really add an 8 and an x. So all I can really do is show x plus 8. That's all I can do. So it's going to take more of an algebra problem to solve this one. So bottom, x plus 8, over 12. 12 over 8. And like I said, my suggestion is to watch this video while you're doing your homework. Kind of find one that's very similar and kind of watch the video, set up your homework. Multiply your diagonals. Don't forget you got to distribute into the x plus 8. 12 times 12 is 144. Distribute 8x plus 64 equals 144. Subtract the 64. 8x equals 80. X equals 10. So this one actually came out even. I get a 10 here. So that's my answer there. So that's these two. This one is pretty much the same as the first two. This one was quite a bit trickier because I moved where the x was. So that's those. Let's slide down to the next two. So down here, I flipped them all the way upside down, but I still have to use this. It's kind of the bottom, even though it's flipped upside down. So the entire total hypotenuse, 20, over 15, because 15 is the one I'm using twice, because it's part of the big triangle, it's part of the left-hand triangle. So use it again, over x. There's my setup. So again, I moved the x around, but this one doesn't give me too hard of a proportion to solve. So 20x, 225. So 225 divided by 20, 11.25. So this segment here is 11.25. That's my answer there. Now this last one's a little bit tricky, but it's not too bad. My total is 60 over x over whatever that is. But I didn't give it to you. That's what makes this one a little bit tricky. So like I said, x got used twice. I've got a 40 here. This 40 I don't want to use. I want to actually subtract the 40 from 60 to figure out what this one is. And that's 20. So the 40 actually isn't part of the problem. It's just there to help you with the 20. So now I go ahead and multiply diagonals. X squared equals 1200. Take the square root of 1200, 34.64. So this segment here is 34.64. Now these first 6 all use the new formula. Remember that new formula was the big segment that got cut into 2, that total, over the leg over whatever segment's on the same side. That's my setup. Now the next 6 are all kind of mixed up. They have some from today, some from earlier in the week. So let's take a look at the next ones. The way you can tell the difference between if we're using today's formula and yesterday's formula is there anything in the middle or is it on a corner? If it's in the middle, that was yesterday. Remember yesterday, we take the piece over the middle over the other piece. This formula, I think, is a little bit easier than today's. So left side over middle, middle over right side. That's my setup. Multiply out your diagonals. 18 times 6, 108. Square root the 108, 10.39. So therefore, 10.39 is my middle. That's my middle. This guy, I had something on a corner. So that uses today's formula. Remember, today's formula, you've got to find that total. So 20 plus 5 is 25. So total over corner, which is x, reuse the corner over, make sure you drop it straight down and use the 20. Don't use the 5, use the 20. There's my setup. So x squared equals 25 times 20, 500. Take the square root of 500, 22.36. So there's my answer there. So this one used Tuesday, Wednesday formula. This one used today's, Friday's formula. So there's 2 examples. Now again, I've got 4 more. So let's take a look. This one, again, this is probably the trickiest of the bunch because you can't really put a number on the total. You've got to put x plus 9. It makes it the trickiest. I'm using today's formula because I have something on a corner. So total over leg, total over corner. So x plus 9 over 12. The 12 gets copied. Use it twice. Over, make sure you use the 9. That's my setup. Multiply out those diagonals. Make sure you put parentheses so you can distribute. So 9x plus 81 equals 144. Subtract the 81. 9x equals 63. This one actually comes out even. I get 7. So therefore, this piece here is 7. This one. Now, this one kind of looks like this one, but this one it was in the corner. This one it was in the middle, which makes this one pretty easy. Because if it's in the middle, it's just piece over middle, middle over other piece. So if it's in the corner, you've got to use the total. If it's in the middle, you use piece and piece. Multiply out those diagonals. So 2x equals 18 times 18 gives me 324. X equals, divide by 2, 162. Now, I know that number seems kind of big. And like I said when I was doing the notes in class, if you look at the 2 and the 18, this side here is 9 times bigger than this side. If you look at these two, 18 times 9 gives me 162. So that's why that one is so big. It's just because of the numbers I gave you. So it may seem wrong, but it is right. So that's these two. Again, one from today's stuff, one from previous. Last two. I've got something in a corner. Remember, if you're using the corner, you're doing kind of these L shapes. That's kind of an upside down L, but it's still an L shape because I'm using a leg. So 70 over x. X is what's getting used twice because that's in the corner. X over, I want to use that guy, but I didn't give you that guy. I can find it because all of this is 70. Chop off 40, I had 30 left. So I want to use 30. So that's what made that one a little bit trickier. X squared equals 2100. Take the square root of 2100. I get 45.83. So x equals 45.83. So that's this guy here, 45.83. Now this last one, I've got a bunch of variables. This one uses all three formulas. So this is kind of the wrap-up problem. I'm going to do the z first, because that's the first formula I covered. If I have the middle. So remember, if I have the middle, it's piece over middle, middle over the other piece. I think it's the easier one. So piece over middle, middle over other piece. That's my setup. This one actually comes out even, because I get 36. Take the square root, I get 6. So 6 is in the middle. Now I've got to find my two corners. Remember, when you're finding your corners, you've got to use the entire segment there, from corner to corner. So 3 plus 12 is 15. So now I do 15 over, let's do x first, x over 12. There is my setup. 15 times 12, 180. So x squared equals 180. Take the square root of 180. I get 13.4. 2. So 13.42. That's this segment there. 13.42. One more to go, because then I got to get this corner. It's going to be very similar to this one, but this time I got total over y. Y, now I got to use that guy, over 3. So this one we use 15 over x, x over 12, 15 over y, y over 3. Y squared equals 45. Take the square root of 45, I get 6.71. So 6.71 here. So like I said, this one and the last one on your homework, you've got to find all three. So this is kind of the wrap-up problem. This shows you everything you could have found. Now, this homework, like I said, I'm trying to give you guys extra time to do work. This actually isn't due until Wednesday next week, the last week of remote, which also means if you need help, Wednesday's an entire day of office hours. Pop in anytime on that Wednesday to get some help. I'll walk you through stuff. So this homework here is due Wednesday next week. Wednesday next week. And then that Wednesday would end up being the 27th. So do your notes, get some extra credit, make sure you do your homework. Have a wonderful weekend if you're watching this before the weekend. Take care.